Better Together with Maria, your life improvement series.
This is something I've been studying most of my career, and it turns out that around the world, across cultures, across different industries, most of us have a default style of interacting with other people. And I've come to call them giving, taking, and matching. Givers are the people who are constantly asking, what can I do for you? Takers are the opposite. They're trying to figure out, what can you do for me? And most of us are afraid of being too selfish or too generous. So we play it safe in new relationships with this third style called matching, where I say, hey, I'll do something for you if you do something for me. And let's be clear, we all have moments of giving, taking, and matching, but we also have a style, which is how do we treat people most of the time? Or how do we treat most of the people most of the time? What's our default instinct when we're interacting with somebody new? And I found that givers are overrepresented among the people who fail the biggest and the people who succeed the biggest. And I thought this was a really interesting paradox that a lot of givers really struggle because they put other people above themselves. They're constantly sacrificing themselves for their community or for their family, and they end up burning out or getting burned by takers. But then there's another group of givers who end up actually outperforming takers and matchers if you look at their careers. And there are a bunch of, I think, choices that they make that really allow them to be the rising tide that lifts all boats. And that's really what I was excited to study, is to say, how do I combine a value of generosity with a goal of achieving success? How do you align your own ambitions for yourself with your desire to help other people? And turns out that's not impossible. In fact, there are some people who do it extraordinarily well.
Talking about the takers, because I feel like a lot of givers, for a number of different reasons, are attracted to takers. And by the way, the takers are attracted to the givers because they're vampires. They need your blood. I love how you break them down to, narcissists, but some of them were actually givers at one point, but then were burned, and then others are just sociopaths or psychopaths.
Yeah, I think that if you know somebody who's a taker, or who seems to have a history or a reputation of selfish behavior, it's worth looking at why they act that way. And you will find that some people just believe in a zero-sum world. They think, if I want to win, everyone else has to lose. Yeah. And so if that's the motivation behind their taking, you have to show them, hey, you know what? It's actually possible to expand the pie here. That not every situation is zero-sum. If they're people who have been burned over and over again, and they've kind of overcorrected and said, all right, I've got to look out for number one, I have to protect myself, then the key there is to build trust with them, right? And to earn their trust and show them that you are not a taker, that you're not going to take advantage of them, that you care about their success as much as you do your own. And I think my favorite thing that I've learned over the past few years since writing Give and Take is, unless you're a sociopath, right? Even if you're a taker, you still have moments of generosity. And so if you have a taker in your life, one of the things you can do is you can ask yourself, what are the patterns behind those moments? What is it that draws this person out of selfishness and into kindness? Maybe there's a group of people they care about. Maybe there's a particular skill that they're proud of, that they love to share. I had a colleague who was really into fly fishing, huge taker. But anytime somebody asked him about fly fishing, he would just light up, and he almost couldn't help sharing his knowledge.
And he gave.
And he started giving. Wow. And he would teach you, he would take you out fly fishing. And so over time, people would say, all right, let me ask him a fly fishing question, and then see if I can ask him a work question, and maybe the generosity will spill over.
And I know, and I was mindful of this before my network went on hiatus. We were always, and Stephen was on the phone, we were always wary of the takers. And I will say I had mainly givers. In fact, I think the whole staff was givers. It was kind of part of it was definitely our culture. Wow. I know you're talking about, and I love what you said, so for people out there that are in management, building a culture where help seeking is the norm.
This was counterintuitive to me. I did not expect it. I thought if you want a culture of givers, you should get people to offer help, right? Back to your point about offering earlier.
Okay.
And yet the data show that somewhere between 75 and 90% of all helping in organizations starts with a request. There aren't that many people who say, Kevin, kind of bored this year. how could I enrich your life? Right? Most of the time when people give, it's in response to an ask, where somebody says, hey, I'm stuck, or I could really use some support. But a lot of us don't ask because we don't want to be vulnerable. We're trying to be self-reliant. If you're a giver, you don't want to be a burden to others. You like to be the giver in every exchange. And yet, if nobody ever asks, you have a lot of frustrated givers around you who would be happy to help if only they knew who could benefit and how. And I think the way we change that is, as leaders, we model help seeking, right? To show that it's not a sign of weakness, it's a source of strength. And we encourage other people to ask for help too.
Love that. And then I know you say to weed out, be thoughtful of who on the team is the takers, and then weed them out. But what is the way to catch a taker or to know someone's a taker? If you're
I think the mistake that a lot of us make is we assume that the older we get and the more status we gain, the better we become at judging character.
Yep.
And I think the opposite is true, because you have to remember that the more powerful you become, the more senior you get, the more motivated the takers are to become really good fakers when they're interacting.
Yeah,
with
you say that the agreeable taker is a faker.
The worst kind of faker. And who do they fake with? They fake with the people who can help them get ahead.
Oh.
But they realize, Kevin, it's a lot of work to pretend to care about everybody. So I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna try to fool the most junior person, right?
Yes.
So it's the most junior people in your organization or in your life who often get to see the taker's true colors.
Yes, kissing up, then kicking down, you said, which is what the agreeable taker, aka the faker, does.
Yeah, and it's amazing. You've probably seen this in Hollywood, that the first question that people always want to ask is like, how does the celebrity treat the makeup artist or the executive assistant?
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's what, by the way, I've talked about that before. I'll always watch how any of my super successful friends, even outside the business, how are they treating their help? How do they treat, like you said it in one of your interviews, is how do they treat the waiter? Now, how do they treat those people? Interesting, kind of revealing, right?
It's amazing how much you can learn about someone by watching how they treat people who they think can do them no good.
I also think this really helps too, is talk about the success rate or lack thereof of the taker.
So what you see with takers is they tend to rise quickly, but they also typically fall quickly. Mm-hmm. And they fall at the hands of the matchers. So this was something I rethought when I first came into this topic. I thought, all right, we want groups of givers, we want teams of givers, we want families of givers. Forget the takers and the matchers. And I've learned that matchers play a really important role in our lives because they believe in justice, right? Matchers want things to be even, fair, and square. They believe in an eye for an eye, what goes around comes around. And when it doesn't, they know it's their responsibility, their moral duty, their obligation to become the karma police and punish the hell out of takers and reward givers. So what matchers will do to make sure that takers don't get ahead, because after all, that's not fair, is they actually gossip. And there's such a thing as pro-social gossip.
What is it called? Wait, what?
It's called pro-social gossip.
Pro-social gossip. Interesting.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite terms in sociology. And it's the idea that if you go and warn someone that there's a taker who's trying to take advantage of them, you're actually protecting that person. And so the matchers will go around saying, don't trust this guy. He's a selfish jerk. And that allows us, right, to put a guard up and make sure that we don't get taken advantage of by those takers. And we need those matchers in our lives.
Wow. Pro-social gossip. And this, I love too, that we need to, and I'm big on this one as well, protect the givers from burnout. So all the givers that are around us, man, we must honor them, cherish them, build them up, right?
Yeah, and this will not surprise you at all, but guess who the data show are the most likely to be the burned out givers?
Which ones?
Women.
Yeah. Shocking.
What a surprise.
Mm-hmm. We shouldn't even need to study this by now.
No,
right?
we shouldn't. I mean, listen, been with Maria 20 years. For 20 years, I've had to sit in the background and watch how the men in our business just walk in late, just wing whatever they're doing. They smile, they show off their dimples, and and the women have to work 10 times harder and are just hammered by men and women. And I see I've got Maria with a tumor, I've got her mother with a tumor, and a slew of friends and people around me who I'm seeing a lot of young women who are not having their periods for years on end. And I think the chickens have come home to roost because women are now working more. And I'm so glad you said that because
No, it's so sad to watch. I think, we've known for a long time that we've known for a long time that women do far more than their share of the childcare and the housework, right? What we've learned more recently is that they also get stuck with more of the office housework, the taking notes in meetings, planning events.
Yep.
A lot of the stuff that's invisible and needs to get done, but doesn't get credited at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And then they end up basically doing two people's jobs, right? But still only
all the
being judged
details
as if they're doing one.
Right. They're the only one. They generally, I don't want to make a sweeping generalization. In my experience, I've seen that women are much more detail oriented and and much more stressed about doing the perfect job or doing the amazing job. And I can see it's justified because the pressure I've seen put on them, and they're not allowed to skate by. Wow.
That needs to change.
It needs to
immediately.
change. Yes,
this is the 21st century.
Agreed.
Why are we still expecting that? Wow, a woman's going to be caring and communal. She wants to help, and we take it for granted if she says yes, and then she gets punished in the data if she says no because she's violating those stereotypes. Whereas those of us who are men, we're more likely to be celebrated if we help. Like, wow, never would have expected him to care about another person. Right. Now I have to shower him with praise and rewards. And it's the 21st century, right? It's time that we stopped evaluating people based on the demographic group they belong to and started valuing them based on their contribution.
Yes. Amen.